in structuring your manuscripts, you need to understand protocols that should guide you. I've been able to highlight how you should frame your title. What should go into your title? And in bigger picture, how you should look at your title by focusing on the audience and promoting the strength of your data. This is what is going to give you differentiation factor and make people to want to know what your study is about. So understanding the concepts that guide your study as projected by your title is very important. And I explained how you should develop your abstracts. Your abstracts says a lot about you and the kind of study you have conducted. The moment your abstract is misleading in terms of presentation and information, is going to compromise the uniqueness of the data that your study has been able to generate. The essence of presenting an abstract is to give people an opportunity ahead of your manuscript or your thesis or the content of your article, what it's about. And at that point, you rather gain audience or you lose people's consciousness. The moment people cannot read your article or the article you publish, or it's difficult for the reviewer to pick out the essence and purpose of your article and study, then you have wasted your time. You've wasted resources. And that won't be a good testimonial. So if you get your title right and your abstract is solid, then the next section of a review article or manuscript that you intend to draft is your introduction. Most journals, they combine the introduction and the background. So they don't have a section for introduction and another section for background, like you have in a traditional thesis: introduction, then literature review. So the journal expects you to introduce your study in the concepts of available information in literature with supported evidences. So when you look at your introduction, you look at it in the respect of relevance. Is my introduction projecting the relevance of my study? And the relevance of your study talks about why we should worry. Why should we worry about this study? What is the intention? What do you intend to achieve? And this relevance should be supported by evidences, noble and notable evidences. The moment those evidences are not available, in justification of your relevance, then your argument will be flawed. So the evidence talk about what people have recommended in terms of experimental guides, protocols, findings, and data generated with regards to the kind of study you intend to conduct. And this would be in the global point of view. And you can narrow it down to the central point of your manuscript. And this evidence must be guided by reality. Feasibility is key to the beauty of what you intend to do. You can't make propositions that are baseless. So there must be a template, a guide, a supportive system that will bring conviction that you know what you are talking about, and that this study you intend to conduct makes sense. So it's the reality that gives us that kind of impression. So what's the impression? It's the impression that sets a premise and tone for the study. Because that's very important. Just a glance through your introduction will give us an idea of what your study is about. It's going to clarify the tone, the pitch. Why we should follow your study and waste our time or invest our time in gaining values that will be additive and progressive in the rich sense of personal research and progress of the scientific community. So in your introduction, highlight the essence and purpose of your study in correlation with obtainable standards and available information. So it's more like you are trying to balance concept with reality in terms of finding gaps, and you want to meet up with necessary needs relevantly. So when you are able to find gaps, then you project it in such a way that will be acceptable to our reasoning and clarify comprehension in terms of value and authenticity. So when you know how to balance concepts with reality, which gives you an opportunity to identify gaps, then you could form hypothetical guides and possible problems. Because you can't base your study if you have not been able to identify gaps. So what will make you to anchor your study? They are hypothetical guides that you derived from gaps that you identified in literature. And this gap will define the scope of your study. What is your study trying to explain? What are the questions you are trying to answer? What problems are you trying to solve? Or what specific problem is your study addressing, and on what basis? And are there evidences to support your argument? Are there school of thoughts? And how do you justify this with respect to the gaps you have identified? What is your claim? What is your argument? Or what are you pointing our attention to? So your introduction must be compelling in terms of justification and rationale. People create a premise for their study, but they don't have relevant justifications. And that is why when you intend to carry out a study, part of your assignment is to be able to decide if there are relevant justifications that can support your rationale. If you are writing a review and you have a problem statement, how are you justifying this? So this information is critical to the beauty of your introduction, your ability to justify your rationale comprehensively, meaningfully, and convincingly. So part of what will go into your introduction is the aim of your study. What do you want to accomplish? What is your study intending to accomplish? If you are writing a review, how is this review different from other reviews that have been written and published? What is the uniqueness? What is your unique proposition value? What differentiates your review from what is available? Are you not trying to represent what people have published without basis? Are you sure that you are not trying to copy, edit what people have published to suit the essence of your study? What do you intend to achieve? You need to clarify the aims. You need to set the tone. You need people to go through your introduction and they have an idea of what your study is about. Since there is no differentiation between introduction and the background to the study, in most of the journals, with regards to formats, your introduction is providing a background for your study. You are trying to extend previous studies, or you are trying to provide clarification to a study wrongly presented, or you found a gap that people have missed and you are representing it so that people can avoid previous mistakes and errors with different patterns and approach. Background summarizes what we know so far about your study. What have people presented. What do we know? Sometimes when you go through some studies, background, you realize that the tone is more like you are the first to conduct that kind of study. But just a quick search, you discover that so many people have conducted similar study. So when this kind of introduction is showing that the author have not done their homework well. The authors have not done their homework well. So you must be able to give us an idea of what people know about that subject. And from that point, you can state what we need to know next. So where are we going from here? Or where should we go from here? This is what is known. This is where we should go from this point. And you must be able to explain why we are not there yet, or why we don't know it yet. This is what we know. This is what we should know from here. And this is why we don't know it yet. And it's your priority to now describe how your study will make us know it. It's your priority to now give us a good plan on how your study will make us know it. Don't forget that this plan will form the basis for your rationale. Why the study? Is it fit to purpose? How relevant it is in terms of timing? And is it realistic? Is it logical? So this information will help you to guide how you phrase and frame your introduction. Your introduction should be specific to your study. Sometimes when you read through people's study background, you realize that they have so many uncohesive or non-cohesive information there. They've managed to copy different people's introduction. Similar study, different background, different introduction. They copied and they put everything together as their background to the study or of the study. And you ask yourself, what is this talking about? So you must focus your introduction on your study. I showed us how to look out for information already. What I've been done is guiding us on how we can find gaps, which I'm going to do very soon. Focus your study. Be specific. Your introduction should be focused and be specific. It has to be directional. We must know the direction you are following. It shouldn't be dimensional. Because the dimension, we have to bring different factors into play. And if you don't know how to regulate and moderate all these intertwined factors, then it's going to defeat the beauty of your introduction. Rather, it should be directional. It should be focused. You know the story you intend to tell. You know the good, the bad, the ugly of this story. and you are setting an atmosphere conducive for people to enjoy the story. When you start looking at evidences from literature, what do we know? What is known? You compare it to what is unknown. You balance this with what is acceptable and what is supported. Your background, your literature review, your introduction, and I'm talking now in form of customized journal formats. Your structure, your context, and content is very vital. So when you look at it, your structure, it should give us global and local relevance of this study. The burden in terms of probably prevalence, public health, is it a pandemic? Is it something around endemicity? Give us the structure. Then you now tailor the structure contextually. What type of study? What types of review are you intending to write? Is it a narrative review? Is it a concept proposal? Is it about a paradigm shift, something completely new, like we never saw it that way? What kind of proposal, what kind of review are you intending to write? The information must be clear. Is it systematic review? Give us a picture, contextually, the type of review that it is. Does this have something to do with geography in terms of location? Are you trying to do parallel comparison? Is it African-based? Or is it situated in Africa? Or is it Africa-based? Africa-based, African-based, they are two different things. It can be within Africa, but it has to do with migrants, immigrants from China who have come to domicile in Africa. For example, if you look at how COVID, the virus, was transmitted, you discover that in Africa it was through someone that came from other parts of the world. So that is Africa-based, but not African-based. It's African-based if it is caused by an African. So you need this understanding, this balance in terms of concepts. Does it have something to do with location? Does it have something to do with race, with people? What subjects? What have people reported in terms of samples or sampling? Contests. And these contests will now guide the content. It has to be from broad to specific. If you are talking, for example, about malaria, it has to be from the global point of view, now to Africa, now to probably West Africa, now to Nigeria, or to Ghana, or to Kenya. So So you have to look at it from the broad point of view and narrow it down to your locality, depending on what you are trying to justify. Understand that your context speaks volume and will determine if your manuscript would be accepted or not. It's good for you to take your time to think through the structure, the context, and the content of your review before you decide to write.